I think a lot of times people like to talk the talk and not walk the walk. Don't think that it's going to be as easy as, oh, I'm styling someone. You have to prepare for failure. You have to prepare for people telling you that your baby is ugly.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen. My name is Michael T. Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host Tyler Kelly. Today we're at Venture Cafe St. Louis. And if you're not familiar with Venture Cafe, it is the largest gathering of innovators, entrepreneurs, creators who are making things happen in the entire world. So every week at Venture Cafe cities around the globe, there are people gathering, breaking through the status quo, and you can be a part of that too. So if you're near one of those cities on a Thursday, go check it out. You're going to love it. Now tonight, we're very excited because we have Lisa Hu with us. Now, Lisa, I'm very excited to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is going to be a good show. I think we met you like the first night in like prior to like actually having any product, but the first night, like when you were like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, well, essentially at that time I had like a sample and we were
Okay.
downstairs doing that whole little fashion runway thing,
Yes,
like a mock
that I
fashion
accidentally
runway.
walked through.
You guys accidentally walked through that, and at that point, I don't even know if I launched the Kickstarter yet, but that's right around that time. That was almost like a year ago, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about is Lisa was for many years in the corporate world.
Yeah. Over a
And
decade.
then like you were like, you know, I have these needs that aren't being met. I think I can meet them with this product. And so I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to quit all that and go out on my own and start a business, which we don't hear about very often, right? The business is Lux and Nyx, which is a company that designs luxury, eco-friendly, functional handbags for the modern rock star woman. And we'll talk a lot about that tonight.
Yeah.
Super
yeah.
excited. But it's been kind of cool just watching kind of like your progression from that night.
Yeah, we've been connected on LinkedIn
yeah.
since, and then
And just like all the
probably just secretly
places,
watching
you know,
it,
all the
yeah.
hustling, all like just starting from day one and just working it.
I
So,
documented a good portion of it until I just absolutely ran out of time to do it. It was, I tried documenting that startup journey. I documented up to like 43 weeks, and
wow.
I'm still finding time to try to close that off. But I was going to be the first year startup journey from not knowing anything about this to just where I'm at. So.
And how long ago was that? Like a year and a half ago? Or
I left corporate in October. So now it's probably, a year, not a year and a half, maybe like a year, 4 months,
Okay.
4 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when you say you were documented like videos, blogs, like what were you doing?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I have like a weekly, like week 1, this is what I did. Week 2, this is who I interviewed. Week 3, this is who I talked to. Week 4, this is where I'm at. And just kind of goes through that process. It's been interesting because it actually opened up a whole realm of people feeling like they're part of my journey because, and they would like send me messages and be like, wow, I can't, just knowing you from when you just started this, because I think a lot of people were thinking this was like maybe a hobby or, I think you never know when someone's actually starting. And I think to solidify that in public, and that was kind of scary. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just did it anyway. And I'm still doing it. So
Well,
That's
I'm going to have
awesome.
to check that out because that actually sounds pretty interesting.
yeah.
So tell us about the name. How did you come up with the name?
So Lux and Nyx is Greek for light and night. So at that time, I haven't even left my corporate job yet. I was in transition mode of deciding, okay, do I leave corporate? And I was driving down the highway and I saw this really beautiful pink sunset. And I was like, this name has to be something related to a transition in time. And so that's where the name came from, because I started immediately Googling, like, what's a good name for afternoon, evening, and then I stumbled across Greek mythology, and then I was like, Greek goddesses, light and night, Lux and Nyx. And that's also where the brand color came from too, the pink sunset.
Yeah. So what else about kind of the birth of your idea? Now, Tyler did mention like that you had things that weren't meeting your needs, but is there like a deeper like a deeper story to how the brand started?
Yeah. So, at the time I was a finance director, I would start off, I had so much going on. I would start my morning off. I would work out in the morning, 5 a.m., head into work. And then afterwards, I was doing my MBA, and I would have networking or study sessions. And weekends, I would travel. And I was looking for something that would literally help me save time between all these different situations without switching between bags and, worrying about where my stuff is. Because I just wanted to just go. I wanted to get things done and get more time out of my day. So then I was looking for this bag, and it didn't exist. So I was like, oh, well, I'll make it. I picked up sewing, and I learned that I was a very awful sewer, seamstress. And the next thing I know, I was looking for an actual seamstress to help me create a prototype. And then I shopped around St. Louis, shopped around United States, and just kept going down that path. And then I went overseas, and I went to the manufacturer for a month and shadowed them for a month just to learn the process. And just, I guess leading up to this, there was a good period between I think it was February 2017 when I had this concept that came about, and to October when I officially left. I didn't know I was going to go into entrepreneurship. I actually got my MBA because I thought I was going to continue growing the corporate world and doing that. I mean, who knew once my MBA was done, I was like, no, I want to start my own business. And, I was like, what better time to do it than now? Because, then as time goes and as you go down that corporate path, I feel like sometimes you tend to give yourself more and more excuse of, okay, this is why I'm not pursuing my idea. This is why I'm, whether it's from a monetary standpoint, whether it's family, whether it's whatever else. And so I just said, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to give myself a year. And that's why I started documenting it. And then I'll decide after a year.
What was the toughest part of that transition, from the corporate to being an entrepreneur?
Quitting my job.
Yeah.
I would say that was the hardest part because, you just up until that point, you run all these scenarios in your head, what if I fail? What if, I'm leaving this really great job? I'm disappointing so many different people. I'm disappointing my boss. I'm disappointing my family. I'm disappointing everybody around me. And, all that kind of, it weighs on you, even up till the point of me sitting down with my boss and saying, hey, boss, I'm thinking about leaving, and I want to start my own company. And then telling him, he was like, okay, what are you going to do? I'm like, I want to make handbags. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you have no background in fashion, and, you have such a great trajectory here. This is not, just going through the motion of doing that was challenging because that you knew that at that point that was a pivotal moment, that was a life transition, and I didn't know what was going to happen from there on. So I think the fear of the unknown made that very challenging.
A lot of people start off just tiptoeing into entrepreneurship, but you're like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in. Mm-hmm. Even in so much as going overseas for a month to like you said, shadow the factory or whatever.
Yeah.
So tell us just about that experience. So do you have investors, or are you fully bootstrapped, or?
Yeah, I'm fully self-funding this right now.
So you're all in financially, mm-hmm. time wise, and what I really want to know is the mindset behind saying, because what you've said is this is going to work, mm-hmm. therefore I'm going to do X.
I would say I didn't know if it was going to work. More so than it was more, how you hit a certain point where you're like, okay, do I want to explore something that's potentially my passion? Because what I realized, when I had this idea was I kept thinking about it. I realized I always had different ideas, but this time it was I just kept thinking about it, and didn't stop. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, either I do this, take a risk, And worst case scenario, I have my MBA, I have my background, I'll go back. Best case scenario, I make a business out of it. I guess like life is short, and if you don't take the chances, you'll never know. And maybe one day we'll wake up and regret not doing what we initially intended to do. So I did a business plan before I left, and I have to say the cost is probably more than double or triple what I originally thought. And that's something that, as someone that's contemplating starting a business, they should probably always double or quadruple the cost they thought it would end up being. So with some traction, with the amount that I had saved up, I've been able to continue it. But yes, it costed more than I thought.
Wow.
But having a business plan definitely helps. It gives you a little bit of a mental preparation for what you're going to get yourself into.
Do you have any help? Like, are you working with teams or employees, or are you solo?
So I'm the only full-time person. I have a great team. They're all part-time, but I've just been lucky. I've had amazing people, and a lot of people actually stand behind what the company. They actually approach me because they stand behind what the company represents, and they come to me and say, "I really want to work with you," and I'm just like, "Okay, let's do it."
Awesome.
And figure out what each other's talents are and work from there.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned 43 weeks in, and you kind of had to give up the weekly reporting of.
Yeah, I just got really hard. Someone told me that after I did the Kickstarter, I would get more busy.
Mm-hmm.
Like up until the Kickstarter, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I still had time to just kind of ask around, talk to other entrepreneurs. After the Kickstarter, it was constantly trying to figure out what the next plan is. And there's never enough time to get everything done. As an entrepreneur, you're putting on so many different hats, and depending on what you're focusing on, it could consume all of your time. So constantly pivoting, constantly figuring out what your priorities are is super important. And that kind of decision-making process takes up a lot of your brain wavelengths. Mm-hmm. And so it's been hard to, because writing also takes time. It takes me like half a day, maybe a day, just to say like, okay, this is a good blog post, and let's do that. So taking that much time out of your company work week, it's hard. I want to continue. I do want to finish it and just put some last words on that blog. I just need to find time to do it. Yeah.
So you've been like, and I don't know if this is I will say this is not typical, because your product has been everywhere, like East, West Coast.
Yeah.
So just tell me about like that experience of what are some of the award shows where you've been able to like have your bag?
Oh yeah. So we were the swag bag at the SAG Awards. That was at the Four Seasons Hotel for the nominees that were staying there. And so we've had like some of the nominees, and we're very fortunate for the ones that have gotten it. And so then we got some press around that, and then this week we were actually in Forbes, which is really cool. And then now we're just kind of talking to other press outlets and stuff like that to get the company name out there.
So how does that happen? Like for somebody that's not in that business, and for like an entrepreneur that has a product or something, and they're like just focused on building a great product, but like they need press, right?
Yeah.
How does that happen for somebody that's not used to, that doesn't have those relationships and isn't like doing that day in and day out?
Yeah. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I love my products. I designed them. I love them. But a lot of entrepreneurs focus so much on the product itself and don't realize that the network effect and the marketing is like super important. I would say that should be 50%, at least 50% of what you spend your time on, in addition to an awesome product. And I would say like it really is about just reaching out, It's not for as many yeses that I've had for like some kind of, press mention or whatnot. I probably had like 100 no's. Like, let's face it, like it's you only hear about the yeses, but it's really just about, okay, let's start local. So I started local. I got into some local press here, and that was great. And then that just like snowballed and rolled, and you continuously work on that. You'll get a million no's, but just keep going at it. Don't be annoying about it, but just keep going and just be like, hey, now I have something else going on. Like a new product, a new event that's around the corner. Just find reasons to reach out to press, and just there's this whole thing about, hey, like even if you don't like someone, if you see them enough, you're gonna like them because you see them so much. And just be respectful and don't be annoying. And be patient. That's the one thing. People always want things to happen tomorrow, and I'm at fault for that too. And but I found that over time it just builds on each other. So you're not going to get into like a national public, PR thing immediately, but you can build on it. Start small. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like we've kind of talked about the origin and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious about some specifics of the product, because you talked about initially it not meeting your needs, and there's a lot of eco-friendly things and stuff like that. So tell us about the product. I know you have one with you.
Yeah. I have a sample with me. So I will just kind of grab it and show. So it's like the little things. It really is the little things. So this is one of our latest product. And so one of the things that I realized, I always need an extra pair of shoes with me. So I don't know if everybody can see this, but so I actually create compartments for a change of shoes. So like in here, it goes all the way in, and you can put a pair of heels in there. For this little backpack, on both sides, you can put either flats in here or tennis shoes on both sides. And then also this front compartment. So one of the things that as a working professional woman, you want to carry a bag, but then you also, when you're going out to lunch or when you're going somewhere, you want to be able to, I'm trying to do this in the opposite direction, which is not succeeding. Oh, okay, there we go. You want to be able to just kind of go to lunch and then grab your clutch instead of a backpack. So that was built into the functionality. But then let's say you're traveling, then you have the luggage strap here to put on the luggage. And this whole bag is weather resistant. So if you're in a city and you have an umbrella, you can even put the wet umbrella down here once you're done with it. So then, and you can walk around hands-free. And so those are kind of some of the intentional thought that was put into a bag like this, where it would literally carry you from day to night, in addition to like the normal things you would expect, like a laptop compartment, whatnot. And so from an eco-friendly standpoint, this material is a tech material. It's actually, it's vegan, but it's the most durable and it's lightweight. And it's weather resistant. So contrary to traditional leather, when you're worried about leather staining or walking around with it, that's why this whole entire material or this whole entire bag is weather resistant. But it's made from the most eco-friendly vegan material you can get on the market. So, yeah. And then we also do upcycle leather, which is another concept. I don't have an upcycle leather bag here, but upcycle leather basically takes shoes or bags and recycles them into a new sheet of leather.
Okay.
And we make products out of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of, I have like a very practical camera bag that like allows me to take a ridiculous amount of stuff with me everywhere.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not very fashionable, but
the
utility of that reminds me of that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the notion behind it is so that you can use this as like a utility bag, but it looks like you can very professional. You can walk into a boardroom with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the things like sustainable and eco materials, obviously those are like more and more important to people
Yes,
today.
and people care so much about, the material that goes into your bags, who made them, everything like that. And that's something that I care about too, and that's why I personally went to the manufacturer and learned about what they do and what materials they use. And it's actually a small batch. It's a mom and pop shop. There's like 10, 15 people that work at the shop. So it's all handcrafted and everything.
So tell me about like what's next for Lux and Nyx in terms of like you've reached a certain point and like business wise, like you need to get to point B, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get there? Like what's your next steps?
I think this is probably, in a business sense, I feel like there's these points where it's really tough, right, to get to that next stage. And for me right now, it's going from being a full-time, the only full-time employee to scaling to that next step. And then after that, there will be other tiers of scaling that's difficult. And so right now, one of the things that I'm a firm believer on is testing everything out and trying everything. And, until it fails, keep doing it. And so I realized that one of the things that works for this industry, works for this product in particular, is getting it in front of people. So we're actually going to a market in Vegas in March, and then we're going to talk to potentially collaborating with some business partners and getting it out there. So we have some business development deals that are in the works, and once we get it into people's hands, then more people will see it, and that'll drive traffic to our online business as well as retailers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what about, from your experience, I would say there's probably somebody out there that being in some type of fashion industry or having something like the kind of thing that you have is kind of a dream for them or something they can't stop thinking about. Like, what have you learned that you think could help somebody in that same position?
Somebody that
they
aspires to do this.
want to pursue something similar to what you're doing.
There are so many different things I could tell them. I think a lot of times people like to talk the talk and not walk the walk. So someone that aspires to do this, I would say do it and, give it all that you can. Don't think that it's going to be as easy as, I'm styling someone, I'm making a product. There's so much more that goes behind it. You're in charge of the whole entire operations and everything like that. So mentally, you have to prepare for that. You have to prepare for failure. You have to prepare for people telling you that your baby is ugly. You're gonna get so many rejections before, like I said, you're gonna get so many rejections before you get your first yes. And I think people underestimate the biggest characteristic an entrepreneur that is wanting to succeed is resilience. And I think people underestimate that. And I think if anybody aspires to be a fashion designer, own their fashion business, they need to be fully prepared for that and know that just because you're having a hard day today doesn't mean that you're going to you'll be fine tomorrow, and just get through it and know that you're going to be taking on a lot and you're going to get a lot of no's.
Now, what about the person out there that kind of similar to you, they're in a full-time job. They're thinking about that leap to being a full-time entrepreneur. How do they know when it's the right time to do that?
When you can't stop thinking about it. You go to work in the morning and you think about that idea. You get off work, you work on it, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. You continue doing it until, you're like, I just can't stop thinking about it. I think that's when you get a better idea of this is your passion. Maybe this is something you should look into. I would have to say though, financial wise, be prepared. Fortunately, I worked for a really long time, so I had some savings, but I would say seek out all the financing options before you fully quit, because another way for a company to fail is when you run out of funds. So that's pretty big.
It's pretty big.
Yeah. Cash is king.
All right. So Lux and Nyx, how can people purchase product?
Yeah.
Where can they find you? Social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So the website is luxandnyx.com. So it's andnyx.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Lux and Nyx, on Facebook, Lux and Nyx, LinkedIn, actually we're pretty active there, Lux and Nyx, and then Twitter's Lux_Nyx, because I still need to go after the person that has Lux and Nyx and tell them this is trademarked, but that's a whole nother thing.
Well, Lisa, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. If you're in St. Louis, visit us on a Thursday night. You can find details at vincafstl.org. You can also connect with us on social at We Are Slam or at Venture Cafe STL.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our